the big picture stuff, the more concerning part of yesterday's match is
Mm-hmm.
that, yeah, it was now 4 straight poor starts for Barcelona in a game. They lacked a bit of intensity. They looked tired, and they've also now conceded first in 14 of Xavi's 30 matches this season, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't great. Like it shows you that
No,
even though they were winning games, they were still in the other matches kind of struggling out of the
like
gate.
they haven't been in cruise control the entire time. They've
No.
looked miles better than they did before, but they've hardly been just, in autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah. And where that puts them now in the standings is they're still second with that game in hand on 60 points, tied with
Mm-hmm.
Sevilla and Atleti, with Real Betis on 57, and then La Real, who they play on Thursday, on 55. So it is quite the race now for
Yep.
3 spots. Three of those five teams will grab those 3 spots. Barcelona are still in the driver's seat with that game in hand against Rayo Vallecano, who are also a team that are greatly struggling of
Yep.
late. So yes, in theory, Barcelona still are in the best position to finish top 4, but they do not have Pedri. Again, you still don't know what form Ansu will get
Mm-hmm.
in. And without Pedri, who has been their best player for the last 2 months, and then again,
Yeah.
no PK, where they truly, I mean, Araujo even as well. Like yesterday, we're missing their top 2 best defenders, or
Yep.
best center backs, and their best midfielder, and arguably their best finisher still.
Yes.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making excuses. They have to have the depth to be able to manage those. You have to be able to beat Cadiz at home no matter what, right? You and I should be one of the members of the 11, and you should still be able to beat Cadiz at home if you're
Yeah.
entering Barcelona, just because, again, sheer force of will, right? Xavi can give me enough instructions for
Well,
3 or 4 days, and can we, I'm not me, but
oh, no, but the thing is, the 11 that he did roll out are superior. I mean, just on paper, in a vacuum, whatever, clearly superior to the opposition. I mean,
yeah.
it's not. They were missing their 2 best center backs, their best midfielder, and their best finisher, but there's still, a foundation of talent. There's enough to be a mid-table La Liga team with what they rolled out there yesterday, even with the absences.
Yeah,
And
and that's what's
like you said,
disappointing,
you
right?
got to be able to beat Cadiz at home
And
when
that's
you
what's
have even
disappointing, that
that.
it feels like this team got punched in the mouth, partly
Mm-hmm.
by their own fan base as well, which we're about to get to,
Yeah.
and they haven't recovered. And I think
Yep.
what I've been speaking about, especially after Real Madrid, one of the things I brought up in my 5 headlines that day was, can Barcelona win the games they have to win? Can they win
Yeah.
the big ones? I mean, the concern really has never been for Football Club Barcelona to be able to generally get 3 points against a team like Cadiz. And yeah, they struggled against them last year.
Mm-hmm.
They Cadiz again got 4 points off them, so they haven't beaten Cadiz now in quite a little bit of time. But Barcelona still the bottom half of the table in the teams that they beat as they're supposed to. And the question was, can they overcome? Beating Atletico Madrid was huge. Beating Sevilla was huge. Beating Real Madrid the way they did was huge. And I started to get that belief that,
Yep.
can they win those big games in La Liga?
Mm-hmm.
Can they win those big games in Europe? Because that is what wins you trophies. That's the difference between
Yep.
there's a good team that's fighting for a spot, a seat at the table, and a team that can win a trophy.
Yep.
And not to say that yesterday and Eintracht Frankfurt Europa League weren't big matches, but it was frustrating because the Cadiz felt like a big match because it was a match that elicited a proper response.
Yes.
So I was frustrated, and I think Xavi said the same thing, that this team didn't show the intensity and the strength in of the mind that is required to go out and get a result. Because I did, like I had faith in Xavi, I had faith in this team that they had not say turned over a new leaf, but if they had fully exercised those demons, they would have gone out and they would have battered Cadiz 6-0 or 5-0 yesterday as well. That's what I thought was going to happen because I thought they had turned over a new leaf. And to see them kind of wilt, and even with the crowd, the Grada, as we're going to transition to the press conference, with the Grada to Amasio, with them skipping the game, so that being the fan section at the Goal Nord, for them to completely skip. You heard a few protests, but I heard that it was a lot less protesting Laporte and him being dismissed than there was support. But you could tell that even the mass amount of the crowd there, the team's performance ebbed and flowed with what they saw. This team got jeered and got booed at times. This team got cheered when they did the right thing, or they looked like they had intensity and ambition. And it was so weird to watch this team go up and down throughout the match, depending on how much support they had from that crowd. And you almost think that these players, as professionals have got to be above and beyond all that, that whether they're getting whistled or not.
Well, that's what you think, right? I mean, it's, you know, at the highest level, you know, you play away games, you play big away games. And, you know, I mean, I can't even imagine, you know, every one of these guys, whether internationally or at club level, has played a game where they played in front of thousands of hostile fans who are not trying to be the least bit courteous in what they're screaming at you and what they're doing. So, and I understand it probably is a little bit of a stomach punch when that's happening, you know, on your home turf. I mean, in what's supposed to be, you know, kind of your sanctuary, and you have this, you know, this kind of storm brewing there. And
like, it reminds me when you're a kid, like, and you're bouncing around different friend groups, trying to figure out who you are and who you want to be and who you want to hang out with. And then, you know, I guess now we're drumming up personal trauma, but, you know, and then you think that you found a group of friends, or, you know, you're in seventh grade or whatever, and you think you found a group of friends and things are working out. And then one of them will make a comment or say something, and you go, oh, I'm not really safe here. Like, I like, this is not actually the friends I'm supposed to be with. You know, I don't want to be hanging out with at least these people, because they don't really, like, you know, I can't really trust in them. Like, they're not really people that, you know, have my back. They might be fun, but again, like, you're still figuring out who you know, where you need to be.
Oh, totally. And like where the safe place is. And the problem is
like that, right? Like, I mean, obviously they're,
and the problem here is their friends are imposed on them.
True.
You know, these are the friends
on Twitter that there's no friendship on Twitter.
Yeah, but these are the quote friends who are, but these friends or these people that you hang out with are imposed on you based on their willingness and ability to, you know, buy season tickets or buy tickets and walk into a stadium. I mean, there's no, you know, there's no sense of kind of safety and security there. Because I'm with you. Prior to this last week, you know, prior to the last two games, I sincerely felt like Barca had turned a corner. You know, the Frankfurt game was weird. I mean, just in the sense that, you know, you give away a penalty and you're down 1-0 inside of 3 minutes. You know, I mean, that whole game just sort of got topsy-turvy. I mean, not that they did a whole lot to turn it around, but I understand they were kind of put back on their heels. Last night's game, I felt like I went into it feeling like it was a perfunctory La Liga game. You know, they're going to win. Worst case, it's going to be like 2-1. Best case, you know, we do another one of these 3-4-0s and it's awesome. But it was sort of, when the Cádiz goal went in, it got the sense of a big game, like you said, but not in the good way. But it suddenly got very nervy, and it was like, because this was only going to be a big game if they dropped points, and it's suddenly that peril of dropping points made it into a big game. And I almost got the sense that I don't know that the Barca players were prepared for that shift in sentiment. I think they kind of figured too, we're going to go through, we're going to, you know, even if we do a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10 job, that should be enough to scrape a victory. And, you know, we'll go get them, you know, we'll go to San Sebastian after that. And, you know, and
it's not even the players on the field. It's like the club in general too. Like, this club is always just a monorail at Disney World, where it's, you know, every time it gets on the track, then all of a sudden there's an announcement. Hello, the train is broken. We'll get off the train. We'll find a new one. And then you get on another train, and then you wait to hope that one stays on the tracks. And you hear a bit of skid, and you're like, oh my God, man, I'm gonna die. And then I mean, I haven't been in Disney World in 20 years. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't working when I was there. But
I was gonna say it's like the L train in New York, but you know, just, you know, it could be fairly smooth. I mean, I think could be sitting in a tunnel for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the L train to me is kind of like being like an Espanol fan, where you just don't get on the train at all. Like, that would be my
like, I don't know how does this come up for you? Yeah, exactly.
Get an Uber. I mean, that's just some New York stuff there. But all right, so as far as what I mean about the club, where as much as it feels like, in theory, it's easier, even without Pedri, it's easier to get the train back on track under Xavi and under this team, because Araujo will be back for Real Sociedad. While Pedri is gone for the season, Ansu still, there are rumors that he could be back by the end of the month. So for that there's 7 games left. So he could be back for the last 4 or whatever. And it's not that, again, he's going to be some savior, but every time Ansu has returned, there has been an emotional lift. And so even if he comes back once, there's one game where, you know, this team is going to be up to it because Ansu has returned. And there just seems to be something very special about the way this team rallies around their new number 10. that
Mhm.
I almost, not to say I chalk that game up as a victory, regardless of which game it is, but I do think the team will rally behind him in that way. But
Yeah, they'll get a good performance, I think.
right. So even if this team, though, in results gets back on track, it feels like the club itself has also gone off the rails a bit recently in the last week or two, which is really frustrating because it felt like they had righted the ship. The January transfer window was as good as it was. But, people, I felt like discourse for a month and a half as the results were good. We're talking about Matteo Alemany. Oh, he's a master dealer. Who's he going to bring for the summertime? More free agents. Kessier, Christensen, let's do our homework. Let's all figure it out. And then the minute things go bad, now immediately I'm like, well, it really should have been Kessier. It shouldn't have been Boubacar Kamara or right. And then you start to question everything.